Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? It is your hostess with the mother mostest. It's Pastor Keenan Riley, PKR, back for another episode of People Suck, Love 'Em Anyways. And as always, I'm joined by my sidekick, Nicky Nick, over here slurping on is that a sweet tea?
Nah, I won't tell you what it is because half the people that listen to this probably like, you're drinking unsweet tea.
Rolling down the street, smoking Indo, sipping on gin and juice. It's not gin and juice, though, right?
It's definitely not.
It is not gin and juice. It is unsweet tea, which is actually more unholy than gin and juice, especially in the South, right?
Yeah, I think I saw a Facebook post the other day who said, I want. It was like something along the lines of like, I'll pray for whatever trauma you went through that makes you drink unsweet tea.
Word, man.
I was like, listen here, you don't know me.
As a kid and a young adult, man, sweet tea ran through my veins, and people. I'll never forget, I went to New York back whenever, I think I was about 17, 18, and we ate at this restaurant, and it's called Tavern on the Green, by the way. Look it up. Their claim to fame was that was Nick Lachey's and Jessica Simpson's favorite. That lets you know that predates it to about 2000, right? But anyways, so we sat down at this restaurant, and it's like, what do you want to drink? And it's like, sweet tea, and they just looked at you. And they're like, we have unsweet tea and Splenda packets.
See, I heard that, though.
Not the same.
Like in the North, though, in the North, they don't have sweet tea.
After you pass the Ohio River is what I say. After you pass the Ohio River, man, you're done. Like you're toast. You maybe a little bit of Southern Indiana, Southern Illinois, maybe. I don't know.
I'd say a little bit in Ohio, but you get like a certain distance from the Ohio River line or Kentucky line, and it's just like
sweet tea it's like sugar and tea does not go together. So
they'll look at you weird.
Yeah, they will. They will look at you very weird.
I wouldn't know. I've never been that far north, but
man, they will look at you weird for real.
Stories.
Yeah, they will for sure. But yeah, man. So how is it? How's it going? How's life? How's things treating you? How's your walk? How's your head? How's your heart, man?
That's a lot of questions.
How's your finances? How's your mindset? How's your faith? How's your marriage? How's your house? Go ahead.
No. I mean, it's been a pretty good week. I'm thankful we finally got electricity turned on in our house. That's a huge thank you moment for us, and we're very grateful and happy that step's been taken, and hopefully, this time, sometime this week, we'll get finished up on the rest of our house on everything that needs to get done. But
your in-laws are gone, so
they will be.
They'll be gone. So now you have 2 weeks to chill. Right?
Well, not till next weekend.
Oh, okay. I was going to say you got like 2 weeks to chill, bro.
I was like, hey, we'll be gone. We may be gone by the time you guys get back, and they just laughed at me. I was like, but I will say it's funny though, because I mean, we've joked about it a lot. I said, but I'm like, I'm done putting time frames on stuff. Yeah, we talk a lot about God's timing, not ours, and this whole situation has been nothing. If anything else, it has taught me that it is God's timing, not my timing. Because if it was my timing, we'd been done a year ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just gotten pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. I have no idea why. God's ways are mysterious, but it's been a tough testament to our faith. It's been a lot of times where we've been struggling a lot. But like I made a funny Facebook post about it. But like when I walked in my house, we turned the electricity on, the lights came on, the fan came on. I took a picture and said these are the most beautiful lights I've ever seen. Because a lot of people don't understand it. But again, it's been such a long process just for that to happen.
Yeah.
So we're very, very grateful for it.
What about the people who listen to the podcast that don't have electricity?
Yeah, we're praying for you.
We pray that the hand of God moves mightily in your situation as well, to where you can have electricity, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good thing. So we added a country, right?
Yeah, Nigeria, I believe, was.
Shout out Nigeria, man. Thank you guys so much. So what's that put us to?
45, I believe.
45 countries, man. That I don't know. I still, man, it's hard for me to put that into perspective. To look back as to just on life in general. I do a lot of reflecting these days, I guess. It's a sign of getting older. Mm-hmm. But to reflect back on life and to think about, like, would you think, even as a kid, as a child, we were talking about, just kids in general, before we started taping and stuff, just, what we did as kids when we didn't have cell phones and things like that. But, like, you ever think as a kid, man, that you would just be sitting and taping a podcast that was in 45 different countries one day, and I know we talk about platforms and we talk about like numbers and we talk about increases and we talk about the bigger the number, the bigger the platform and things like that. And I think that's a good thing. And I think some platforms we talked about happen overnight. I know it's not true. Like there's a lot of consistency and things that go into it. But I also have figured out too that, man, that like, platforms can be huge in their own regards, not based on number, but just kind of based on outreach. I feel like what I mean by that is that, like, you know, we say this a lot that we're just too. I don't know if you call yourself country, but I mean I'm as country as cornbread most of the time.
Whenever I listen to myself, I sound country as cornbread.
But you know, we're two dudes in the middle of South Central Kentucky, in the United States. With no funding, no partnerships, and no, you know, anything like that, and you know, to think about the opportunities that God has presented us with just open doors of somebody. I mean, I don't care if it's one person, somebody across the pond, across the ocean in Nigeria decided to listen to People Suck, Love Them Anyways. That to me is amazing in itself, man, because like, even though we look at it and go, well, you know, what if it was just one person, or what if it was just one download? Like, do you know how many people sit on the sidelines and never take that chance? Never make that podcast, never make that video, never make that account, never start that business, you know? And it's like, you know, to me, man, whenever we start talking about these different countries and things like that, it's like, this is stuff, Nick, that I learned about in school. You know what I'm saying? Like, Nigeria was a country that I learned about in school, not a country that's hitting the download button on a podcast that we do on a weekly basis. And so it just makes it surreal, man. And I'm like in a phase, I guess, maybe in my life where it's like I'm so grateful and thankful for what God has done, continues to do, and will do. And just to see, I guess, the growth of how far He's brought us from, and what we've done and been able to accomplish through Him and Him alone. It's just, man, it makes me sentimental almost. You know, kind of cue the sad music in the background, maybe the
mini violin,
like the little heart tugging music, man. Yeah. But I mean, it's just, I think it's awesome to see how God works more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I've talked about it a couple times before. You know, about, I guess, my testimony of, you know, just, you know, as Kenyon was saying, you know, looking back, you know, never thought he'd be where we're at. You know, and it's just so true. You know, I think I shared a post on Facebook the other day, or a day or two ago, about, you know, in 5 years or something, like, or how I was saying, you know, one day I'm going to get what I've been praying for, you know, and all that kind of thing. It's a cliche thing that a lot of people post, but, you know, I was able to look back. You know, I posted that 5 years ago. It was in my Facebook memories. You know, and I was able to, I shared that, and, you know, I just gave God credit for all the things that I've been given that I never thought I would have. You know, there's things, you know, there's many times, many nights, many evenings, many whatever you want to say it, that I never thought I'd be where I'm at, doing what I'm doing with who I'm doing it with. You know, just the ability to do what I do right now is 100% from God, because, you know, I had this conversation with my mom actually about, I think it was last weekend, on Memorial Day, after we recorded last week's podcast. Like, I was telling her, you know, I was like, you know, there's just no way that I could have ever seen myself doing what I'm doing. You know, just being able to talk to people about God, and to stand up in front of groups of people, and, you know, even do something like announcements or pray for people and all these sorts of things. You know, it was just so far-fetched from what I believed was possible when I was younger. Even, like I said, 5 years ago, before I graduated college, you know, I'm thinking like 2019-ish, you know, what I'm doing now just didn't seem like even a possibility. Yet, as we've just said, you know, we're sitting here, and I mean, my voice is able to reach the ears of people in 45 different countries. You know, and we get, you know, hundreds of views on, you know, Facebook every week from our videos or the podcast or whatever else it may be, you know, that's seen by people we don't even know of.
Yeah.
You know, and it is pretty crazy to think, you know, and again, I do have faith and believe and hope that this will get bigger, this will grow even more, and we're going to be able to change even more lives and reach even more hearts, lives, minds, and souls. But, you know, I am thankful for where I am today versus where I was 5 years ago.
Right.
You know, and it is definitely something that I never thought would be possible, not something I thought I would ever be doing. You know, and it's like I said, you know, the God, reaching down and telling me like, hey, message to this person, which is my wife, led to such a crazy turn of events. Me coming here to fruition, and me getting so much more involved and learning so much more, and all these sorts of things about God and spirituality and all these sorts of things that we talk about every week on the podcast. None of that would have been possible if not for me obeying God and continuing to move and trust and hope and have faith in Him. And through the process, even when it didn't make sense, even when it didn't seem like anything was going anywhere that I wanted it to go.
Right.
Like I said, as we say, it's always there's power in the one,
Yeah.
and getting to that one moment, that one decision, that one song, that one sermon, that one prayer, whatever it may be, that one download, that one share, that one view, whatever. There's power in just that one decision, that one moment, that one time. And that could start or spark change that just lasts for years and ends up creating something amazing.
Yeah.
And we're very grateful. I know, like I said, I'm very, very grateful for all the, I guess I could say I'm grateful for the stupid decisions I've made because it led me to the correct decisions that I've made recently.
Yeah.
Over the last 5 years, it led me to where God wanted me to be at.
Yeah, I think that's what we talked a lot about today. And anybody who ever listens to our services, I just try to be real and relatable whenever I preach. And one thing that we talked about today during service was, the fact of how I used to be and how I perceive things. And we had a conversation about this Wednesday night after church. And my passion and my desire is always people. I want to help people. I want to love people. I want people to grow. I want people to experience this fire, this passion, this desire that I have on the inside. But at the same point in time, I got to be careful because I can't expect people to be me. Mm-hmm. I want people to feel what I feel, but I can't expect people to be me. And the what I was talking about on stage today was there was times in the first probably 2, 3, 4 years of ministry here. And that I would preach with I called it my hair on fire. But it was, I would preach and I would preach from a place of anger sometimes because I was angry at the congregation, not the congregation in whole, but, let's just say people in the congregation, because I knew that they were, I felt in my spirit underachieving. I felt like, that if they would just get connected and just go and just do and just run and just go, and just never look back and never ask a question and just full force into it, man, that they would be something amazing. And I would get mad because I was like, wait a minute, why aren't you responding? Like what I would. Why aren't you responding? And why aren't you doing this for? And God really had to bring me to a point to understand kind of like where you were as a kid, where I was as a kid, and think about things like, hey, people aren't going to respond the way you do and act the way you do and believe the way you do and love the way you do and live the way you do and stuff like that. It took me 16 years to figure out that I wanted a relationship with the Lord. Mm-hmm. Okay? It took me 16 years. And, after I had my relationship with the Lord and I gave my heart and life to Him, I was not a perfect Christian. I wasn't a serving Christian. I wasn't a loving Christian. I was a fake Christian. That's what I was. I was a fake Christian. And what I mean by that is that I looked the part, but I was not the part. I was a cheap. I was a fake. I was a phony and imitation. I've been reading those. I've been reading that thesaurus, man.
Good job,
but I was all of those things. And even though I looked and I smiled at people and I carried a really big Bible and I had my suit on and and I sat in the pew and I did all the things right. I'd raise my hand, amen, praise you, God, things like that. Even though I did those things, they weren't authentic. And sometimes I truly think that we can measure growth in the wrong dynamics, because growth to me needs to be authentic. It's not, well, I've come to church 8 times in a row. That's great. But if you haven't grown any in the 8 times in a row you've been here, you know what I'm saying? Then that's 8 times that doesn't make a difference in the mix. Now, you may only be able to come once every 8 weeks. But once you're here that first time in 8 weeks, it's like something hits you, bam, and it's like, oh man, I need to change something in my life. And for me, growing up ministry wise and growing up in my faith and growing up in my walk in Christ was really just starting to rationalize with myself that people are growing and people are doing things at different rates. And what you said Wednesday night, whenever we were having this conversation, it's like you can give people the tools, but you can't expect or force them to use those tools. And it's the same way with ministry. It's the same way with anything in life, whether it's a job or anything else. You can give people what it is to be successful or what it is to be more Christ-like or whatever. You can give that to people. But you also can't expect people to just catch on and just take off like you would, or you can't expect people to maybe slow down and process it like you would. Like, we're all working differently. But the one thing that I want people to understand, whether you're listening to this, whether you're watching this or whatever, is like, even though we're working differently, we're also trying to work together. And the together part of it is where we have to, as a church collectively here, but as a church in general, corporately, we have to start understanding that people, it's just like grade levels of school. This is what God was breaking down to me. It's like grade levels of school, man. You got your 12-year Christians that are literally 12 years. They're almost to that point of where it's like senior level. They've been through it. They know what's going on. Then you got your people that's stepping in for the first time. And somehow or another, school is different because you got the kindergartners and you got the seniors, in different areas learning different things. In church, you got everybody together, and you're trying to navigate this ministry or this Sunday, this Sunday service where you may have the kindergartner and the senior in the same room, and it's like, don't get frustrated at the kindergartner because they don't know any better. But don't get frustrated at the senior because they're yawning, and it's like, oh, I've been through this, So it's like, it's, for me, collectively growing and kind of getting to where we are today in this moment in time, it's like understanding that, again, we're all on different pages, but we're all supposed to be growing uniquely together somehow, some way. And that's tough. But it's also something that, like I said today, I've grown a lot of peace from, because I understand and recognize now that you can't change people. You can't change people. You can't change anything about people. But what I can do is love people regardless. And that sets me free from judgment, from oppression, from bondage and chains, and from getting caught up in drama or whatever the case is. Like, it sets me free from that stuff whenever I'm like, yo, I'm not seeing, the progression that I think is there, but you know what? I'm going to love you regardless, because it sets me free from being in bondage to something that I think or something that I've pictured, but it may not truly be the case.
Yeah, and we've talked, I think, on this podcast before, and even during service, about how dangerous it is to place your expectations on someone else. Or what you would expect yourself to do, placing that on somebody else who may not be in the same place as you.
Right.
Because it's something that I definitely struggle with. I used to, I talk all the time about like my past and who I used to be. And not to say that I'm extremely different, but I was a very hateful, judgmental person. But I also, at the same time and point is that, like, I would look at people and know that they had a potential. This is before that before I got, super in deep with Christ and all those sorts of things. I say, I got saved and baptized after VBS when I was, 10 or so. But it's still a matter of, as I've grown and grown and grown, I believe that seed was still planted in me, and it was growing slowly, because God gave me that gift to empathize with people and to see people for who He sees them as. And there were times that I would look at somebody, and be like, you could be so much better if you would just stop doing this, or if you would just do that, or if you would just be like this, or if you just be like that. It was very, very simple. But unfortunately, what God meant for good was eventually turned to, you're stupid if you don't do this, or you're a moron if you don't do that,
right.
Or this, that. And it became instead of I see your potential, it became judging you for what you were doing and who you were being.
Right.
And unfortunately, again, God's working on getting that changed, getting that fixed, to where now I'm able to help and encourage and motivate people to be who I can see that they could be, who God says that they could be, allowing, using my words instead of putting people down, using my words to lift people up. And it's been a long process, and I do still struggle because, again, I see the potential that lies in some of these people. I know what us as a church could be if, more people would tithe, more people would serve, more people would give, and all these sorts of things. I know what we could be. And, we talk all the time, just as you said when you first started out, your hair on fire, you're mad, what these people could, we know what we could do if these people would get on board and all this, that, and the other, and I see that as well. And it's a matter of me trying to remove myself from that situation, because if I keep that mindset, what I'm doing is I'm trying to control people. I'm trying to, hey, I'm going to tell you to do this. This is how you need to do it. This is what you need to do it. And if you don't do it, then you're not good enough. Right. And that's a very toxic mentality that I try to work through and try to get over. Instead of just trying to take a step back and, again, as we said, giving people the tools, doing our job, as leaders, as spiritual advisors, whatever you want to say, doing our job, give people the tools. I think I explained it one time as, giving people like an instruction booklet for Legos, right? Like, they have to have all the pieces. You tell them how to put it together. You give them the booklet, and it's up to them whether or not they put it together or not. They have to do the work. We give them, or as we say, plant the seed or water the seed. We do our part of the job. And now we have to, instead of trying to control their walk with Christ, we need to let God control their walk with Christ.
Right.
Again, where I think we get in trouble a lot of times is getting frustrated that, so-and-so's not showing up like they should, or so-and-so's not giving like they should, or so-and-so's not serving like they should. It's very easy for us to get frustrated and upset because we know that if they did it, we could be further along, or they could be further along, or they may receive the blessings that they're seeking and desperately after. So, from our perspective, seeing that it is frustrating, but we have to, again, remove ourselves from it and know that we can't force it. We can't control them. All we can do, all we are responsible for is what God has called us to do, which is, make sure our own salvation is good and in check and give other people the tools. And then we have to just pray and hope and have faith that they are going to do with those tools what God wants them to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man, is that, is people are going to do what they're going to do. That's the thing I've learned in 39 years, is that people are going to do what they're going to do. It doesn't matter how much, how often. We could put out a podcast episode every day, and people would still do what they wanted to do. Some people would download it, some people wouldn't download it. It's not about convenience. It's not about comfortableness. It's not about those are byproducts of the choices we make. The choice really just boils down to what we want to do, and that's what has been so liberating for me in setting me free in the process is the fact of that it's like, each and every one of us is going to have a responsibility for speaking before God one day, and I can't be that person that's standing before God and God's like reading off my list of everything I've done wrong. And me going, oh yeah, but what about Nick, or what about such and such, or what about this one, and what about that one? And God's like, the judgment I am placing is not on Nick right now. It's not on this person listening or watching. The judgment I'm placing is on the life that you lived. The choices you made. And that has been liberating to me, is because I want to preach from my heart, and I want to drive this passion home, and I want people to understand, and I want people to relate, but at the same point in time when I'm standing before God one day, I want God to say, you know what, I appreciate you preaching the way that you did, and I appreciate you communicating, the word of God the way that you did, and I appreciate you not trying to force people or force it down people, or I appreciate you not getting so upset with people, in the process of it. And those are things that I'm looking more towards these days versus, hey man, I want you, let's all get our hair on fire and just go forge a path for the Lord. We talked a lot about David today, and I don't know how much we'll get into it or how much of the time frame we'll have today. But for what David done, as a youth, as a child, we can call him a teenager, for how he handled the calling to be the next king of Israel, to transfer, that calling into, hey, I'm still taking care of my sheep, I'm still taking care of what my dad tells me to do, and I'm still doing all of this stuff. It is utterly amazing to me that he would still do stuff like that. And we talked about today about how, that's amazing, but it's like, let's put this into perspective. Like, that's the whole reason why he won the battle with Goliath. It wasn't the rock. It wasn't the sling. It wasn't the, it wasn't none of that. It was, watch David's heart placement behind this whole situation. Watch how he literally still followed what his father told him to do. Like, he was still obedient. He was still like listening to direction and instruction and, and things like that. And it's like, our heart placements, it doesn't matter, Nick, it doesn't matter if we could do a 3-hour podcast. Doesn't matter if I could preach for 2 hours. Doesn't matter if we could do, like, the heart placement behind what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, and things like that. We said this today about praying for miracles, and then God's like, I'm going to do this in your life. And then we stop fulfilling and stop doing and stop pursuing because God has promised us something. And it's like, well, I'm just going to wait around for the promise. I don't have to do all this other stuff. God said he was going to bless me. And we stop. We stop. And it's like, why do we stop for? Because our heart placement. We need to keep fulfilling what we're doing. Which means what? Your job, you walk in and you're like, all right, man, like, on Sundays you're the guy who is running the sound and looking through the cameras and, making sure everything is going good and things like that. And it's like, you know what, man? Some days you're going to drop the ball. You didn't hit record a couple of weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? Is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. Here's the deal with that. You have to be able to do your job and say, hey, man, I'm going to do this regardless of, I'm going to do it as if I were doing it for the Lord. That's what the Bible says. Do everything as if you were doing it for the word or doing it for the Lord. And so here's the deal. If I'm doing that and I'm doing it the right way and I'm doing it with the right heart placement, man, you're going to see that through what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to see that through what I'm doing. And it's like, whether it's praying, I see you a lot up here at the end of service praying for people and things like that, and it's like, if you're up here praying for people, man, you're speaking life over people. You're speaking the presence of Jesus over people. And the heart placement has to be there to be able to do that, because a lot of people, and not just here, but in churches collectively, we talked about today, are you here to get blessed or to be a blessing? And it's like, people, we have to figure out with heart placements that it's like, if we come in here to be a blessing, or if we live our life to be a blessing, or if we wake up every morning looking for opportunities to be a blessing, you will be blessed. You will be blessed, and so for me, man, just thinking back on today, thinking back on the sermon, thinking about just as a kid growing up and stuff like that, it's like the heart placement of who I am, the heart placement of where I've moved in ministry and things like that over the year has been the true cause of why myself, I can't speak for you, but for myself, why it's been so humbling and been so, again, freedom-wise, where it's like, man, I love ministering the word of God, because it's like I'm dispersing the word, and now what are you going to do with it? You know what I'm saying? It's not my job to make you eat it. It's not my job to make you digest it, but it is my job to give it to you. And I'm going to give it to you to the best of my ability and hope that it changes and transforms your life.
Yeah, I mean, just because you force feed something doesn't mean, they ain't going to throw it up.
True statement, man. True statement.
You can shove something down somebody's throat enough to where, they literally vomit it up and don't want anything to do with it ever again. If you ever ate something and then you throw it up and then you decide you never want to eat that again. And I think back to the part in the sermon today when, you were talking about, just screaming at somebody like, you're going to hell today if you don't get your right. And I was like, well, I think we get in so much trouble of just, again, forcing things down somebody's throat. And again, when we do that, we may make that person throw it up and never want it again.
Right.
They're going to get sick of it. They don't want to hear it. They don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
Instead, we're called to love people, when they come to us, just to, hug them, as you mentioned in the sermon, walk up to them, shake their hands. I'm glad you're here. Is there anything I can do for you? Instead of, I'm glad you're here today. Are you saved? Oh, you're not. Okay, you're going to hell if you don't hurry up and get saved. Like,
you better be on that altar quick.
Right, you better be up there. I'm watching you. But, we do get in trouble with stuff like that. And I think. We talked a little bit today too about like distractions. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. It's June. We got former presidents getting put in jail, possibly. We've got, other presidents falling asleep on Memorial Day services. We got crazy stuff going on, war in Iran and Israel, and there's a lot of stuff going on.
Ukraine and Russia.
Everybody's fighting and fussing, and there's just so much going on right now that it almost will take somebody back. I guess is the best way I'm going to say this is, when you come to somebody and offer them that peace, that joy, that hope that they're not getting, because I think a lot of times we want something here at church that we don't get out in the world. Yeah. That's why a lot of people come here. It's why we show up. It's why we come here. We want to offer something to somebody else. We know that there are people who are lost, hurt, and broken in this world who come in these doors every week. We want to show them that there is another way. Show them that there's hope. Show them that there's peace and joy at the other end of this dark tunnel they feel like they're in. We want to feel like we want to show them that, or at least I say it this way: we should want to show them that. Right. That's who we should want to be when people are coming into this building, or when we see somebody on the street. Whether they're homeless, whether there's somebody in our office with us, whether there's somebody at our school with us. If God gives us that spirit that says, "Hey, this person's hurting," you can look at this person and tell that they're hurting, they're sad, they're upset, they're angry, they're whatever. We have choices. Like we always say, we always have choices. We can come at somebody and give them exactly what the world's given them. Hate, anger, frustration, anxiety, all these sorts of things. We can threaten them with salvation, basically, is what I kind of say it. Or we can show that person love. We can show that person grace and mercy, and tell them our testimony. Say, this is who I am. This is why I'm the way I am. Mm-hmm. This is where I go to church. This is all these sorts of things. There's two different ways that you can approach things. Yeah. And what I guess I'm trying to get across is that there's so many distracting things in the world. So many horrific, terrible, no good, very bad things in the world right now. I don't think that we're going to be doing other people I guess we're doing other people an injustice by shoving more of that into their face. Yeah. Not to say that scaring people into salvation doesn't work. I'm sure it works at some point, way, shape, or form. But again, when people are coming in, we need to love them and to guide them and direct them and have patience with them. God knows He has patience with us all the time. Man, and I know that we hate using that word. We consider it a curse word half the time. But we have to have enough patience with people. And I know, like I said, Keenan and I, we know of people that test our patience a lot. We've been in that situation a lot, but again, God has so much more patience for us than we do with other people. Mm-hmm. And if we are supposed to emulate Jesus more, then we need to show more patience towards people. Yeah. We need to love on them. We need to pray for them. We need to be there for them. And again, if the Bible, as it says, if you pour out it to somebody else and they don't accept it, move on. Right. But if somebody is still willing and wants help and wants to do better and be better, then it's our job to pour into them and to help them, pray for them, all those sorts of things. Yeah. Have patience for them. Because again, how many times have you screwed up and God didn't give up on you? Jesus still interceded for you time after time after time. So I think that's just one thing that we need to do a little bit better. Is be more patient with the people. And again, I'm speaking to the choir here. And I'm talking to myself just as well as I'm talking to anybody listening or watching. That we need to stop having such high expectations of people to an extent, but also just trust that if we do what we're called to do, then God will do the rest, and God will take care of the harvest, as it says in the Word. Yeah. And all we need to do is show love, show patience, show kindness, show the fruits of the Spirit, all those sorts of things to the people in the congregation, in the world, in our workplace, in our schools, to show the Spirit of God, to show what it means to be a Christian to people. Yeah. I think it's how you said it. Sometimes people don't need to be told; they need to be shown. Oh, absolutely. They need to be shown what Jesus looks like. I think I saw a Facebook memory today that said sometimes it was that cliche thing that sometimes you're the only Bible that people see. Read, yeah. And again, we say that's cliche, but we don't act and believe it. Right. We say we go to church, we share stuff on Facebook every once in a while, but then somebody cuts us off in a drive-through and we cuss them out. Yeah. Or anything like that. Any other situation you want to throw in there that's similar. Yeah. But we as Christians are just bad about showing or emulating Jesus. We're bad about emulating the Bible because we don't read the Bible. Right. So, 1,000%. So it's just one of those things that again we say every week. It's one of those things that we as Christians need to get better at. Yeah. And if you are not a Christian Christian and you know of Christians who behave in the opposite way of what we're talking about, and as hard as this may be, show them patience. Because, there are Christians out there who think they're doing the right thing. They've been taught a certain way, they've been shown a certain way, and they think that's the way they need to do things. It doesn't mean, as we say this all the time, God didn't hurt you, the people in church did.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't know how to go about things the right way. Sometimes they don't know how to do things the right way. Maybe you've been faced with somebody. Maybe you're listening or watching today and you've given up on church because of the way somebody else behaved, or the way somebody else showed the Bible to you, or whatever else you want to explain it. I plead with you to be patient, to give God another chance, and understand that He has better and more greater things in store for you, and He wants you to feel loved. He wants you to feel joyful and at peace. And understand that, again, as Christians, sometimes we're not the best providers of those things that we're supposed to provide. But again, I'm just hoping that both people on both sides of the Christianity spectrum here, that they're going to be able to take something away from that, to just be more patient with other people.
Yeah, you were talking about having lower, I guess, expectations for people. I don't know if I would say lower expectations versus stop having your expectations for people. One thing that really humbles me about the whole process, man, is just thinking about how, like you said, how generous and how good and how patient God has been with me in my life. Because, again, I was not who I needed to be. I was not who who God called me to be. And to think about like how patient God was with me, and again, I think back to the church membership. I think back to the times I would fill the pews, and I think back to the times that I would just show up and check out, and I've told this, like, I looked the part, but I wasn't the heart, and I'd literally be ordering a pizza on my phone in the middle of service, close to the end, so that way it would be done by the time we got out of service. And it's like, what if the Spirit wanted to move? What if the Spirit wanted to do something through me in that service, and I am so disengaged that I'm literally ordering a pizza right now? And
then you're going to be so ready to leave because you don't want it to get cold. And,
absolutely, yeah. And so, like, Sister Susie, who's testified for the third time now, it's like, Sister Susie, shut up, okay? We get it, God's good, I got a pizza, okay? And it's like, I used to be that person, man, and, to watch how God has moved, mightily over the last probably 10 years, 12 years of my life, just to get me to a point, man, to get me to a point to understand, man, that this whole process, this whole situation, that God has loved me through all of it, and God has blessed me through all of it, and God has guided me through all of it, and God has been there with me through all of it. And that gives me hope for every person that sits down in here, for every person that hits the play button on the podcast or the download button, for every person that comes in contact, that I come in contact with. I'm doing a 30-day social media fast right now, and I put a post out about it yesterday. Started yesterday morning. Sorry, I didn't put a post out yesterday. It was Friday night on Facebook, and then on TikTok yesterday morning. I just dropped a video and said, I'm done until July 1. And, this guy randomly shoots me a text today from New Mexico. And says, hey, man, I'm on a fast too. I appreciate it, man. We'll fast together. I said, yeah, for sure, man. Stay in touch. Let me know what you're praying for. Let me know what you're praying about, things like that. And it's like, man, to watch God move and watch God do. And it's like, if I would have just shut up 10 years ago and not been about me and not been about, the convenience of me and the comfortableness of me, but God, if I would have learned how to scrub toilets 10 years ago, if I would have learned like how to vacuum floors and how to put up baptism tanks 10 years ago, and and things like that, it's like how much further along would we be, or would I be, or would my family be in ministry and things like that? Who knows? We can sit back and think about the woulda, coulda, shouldas, but to sit back now and look around at 39 and be like, man, I'm so thankful that God didn't give up, and I'm so thankful that God was very, 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 very patient, and He's still very patient with me about certain things and certain topics and certain situations in my life. He's still very patient. He's still working on me, as the good old Bible school. So I think it's a Bible school song. He's still working on me to make me what I ought to be. And that's true. This Christian walk and this Christian relationship is a progress. It's a process every single day. One thing that really ministered to me today, and that the Holy Spirit ministered to me, is that it's not a race; it's a pace. Mm-hmm. It's not a race to read the Bible in a year. It's not a race to how far can I get in the church. It's not a race to how long is it going to be before we get 300 people or 500 people. It's not a race, man. It's God's pace. And if we operate at God's, this is the crazy part to me. Now this is the crazy part. I think God's pace and our patience goes hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And what I think happens is that we don't want to go at God's pace, so we don't have any patience. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to walk with God's steps, and we don't want to operate in God's timing. Because God's timing, as we learned with David, may take 41 days to show up to defeat a giant. May take 40 years for him to come to the backside of a desert and get you. If we operate in God's pace, then we're going to have patience, and we don't want to do that, And I think it's a very sobering experience if you sit back and you think about how bad, nasty. I always tell people, you will never teach people about how good God is until you tell them about how bad you've been. I've always said that. I believe that. And I think it's very sobering to sit back and think about all the crap that you've done, all the crap that you said, all the stupid stuff that you thought, every process that you've been through in your life, and to still think that there is a God in heaven who loved you through every single bit of your ignorance in life, up to a point of where you're finally starting to get it and it's finally starting to click together, and you're like, man, those 20 years that I was just acting a fool and God still loved me. All that time I was acting a fool and I probably should have died 9 times, and God was like, I've got something for you if you would just get on board. And things like that. It's like we talk about stuff like that, but it's like that is a sobering experience that I think if every one of us, Nick, were genuine about sitting down and being like, man, God has been so good to me that He loved me in spite of. How much better would we look at people and go, you know what? And I said this today. Like, how much better would we look at people and go, you know what? Shout out Kurt Traxler over here. You come once every 8 weeks, man. 5 years ago, I'm throwing you under this church. You need to be here. You got to be here. You this, that, and the other, blah, 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 so on and so forth, putting my expectations on that person. But looking at it now going, you know what? How many times did I sit in church 8 weeks in a row, like we said, and didn't grow a bit? You know what I'm saying? Did not grow a bit, but I was here, and it's like, oh, but I was here. It doesn't matter, Look at it in the perspective of, you know what? This young man showed up today. This young man showed up today. There's people in here that showed up today. There was people in here that was part of the service. There's people in here part of the praise team. People in here as part of the podcast. People in here that's part of the camera crew. Teachers. Like, people showed up today. And that is something to be thankful for, to be grateful for, and to go, man, I tell you what, because not everybody, Nicholas, not everybody was here on a Wednesday night when there was 7 people. Not everybody was here on a Sunday morning when there was 40, And it's like, you look at it now and you're just like, do people still suck? Yep. Did people still suck when there was 40? Yeah. Will they suck when it's 400? Yeah. But thank God they showed up, Thank God they showed up, because there's something being done in their walk where today, they chose Jesus. you know, and that might lead to something in their life tomorrow, next week, next month, maybe next year, Nick. We just planting seeds that will say, you know what? It was that one church service that I went to. It was that one podcast I listened to. It was that one prayer that they posted. It was that one that made the difference. And man, I tell you what, that's what it's all about for me, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. I was kind of taking it all in.
Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, it is. You know, as we've talked about, we even talked about this Wednesday night after service. You know, just because I'm the worst about getting impatient with people and being frustrated when people don't do what I want them to do and all those sorts of things. I still am guilty.
If nobody knows,
right,
if nobody knows, we say this all the time. Nick is me 10 years ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah, maybe 5 to 10 years ago. You know.
Yeah, everybody says that.
Yeah, he's me 5 to 10 years ago, and I always tell him, I'm like, bro, one day you're just gonna mellow out, and you're gonna be like, man, man, it's all good. It'll get done, But so y'all pray for him. He's got some transitioning, but I know the progress I made, so I'm hopeful for him.
It's not impossible.
I'm hopeful. Go ahead.
No, but yeah, and so I mean, it is difficult to and we talk about it, week in, week out about who wasn't here, who didn't do this, who could have done that, or how much. And again, I think we get so caught up, as I think Keenan mentioned, just that race, where we see this thing as a race. We always want to be the fastest, have the most, do the most, all those sorts of things. We want things to happen when we want them to happen, but it really does come. And I think this is something that I'm taking away and I'm trying to get better at is just being thankful and grateful for where we're at and what we have in the moment. I think you can work towards the future while being grateful for the present.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I definitely need to work on. Is taking the time on Sundays and Wednesdays just to be thankful for who is here, for what is getting done. And if so, like I said, it's because there are people, who we can count on, who can rely on, and we're very, very thankful for that. And there will be more people as we grow, as we reach more and more people, and I need to stop worrying so much, and I think that's just something that I can speak to a lot of other people listening and watching is to stop being so worried about the future, and to stop planning things. And I know this is what's so crazy is because I'm such a planner, and I was like, to stop planning things out, to stop expecting things to be done when you want them to, right?
Surely not.
And so,
surely not.
And again, I think this is something that God has just tried to teach me during this home process that we mentioned at the very beginning, is just, stop saying, because there's been many times I've come to Keenan and come to my mother-in-law and been like, I think we'll probably be done this week, or I think we'll probably be done tomorrow or next week. And God pushes it back another 4 weeks.
I just laugh.
Yeah.
I just laugh.
Yeah. Keenan just laughs at me at this point,
Yeah.
but, and again, I know, and I know that if I need to grow with it, I'm sure there's a lot of other people that need to grow with it as well. And just that matter of, doing what God has called you to do, being obedient, being thankful for what you see and what you have in the moment. And then doing and continuing, what you're doing in hopes and in faith that things will grow. More people will come, more people will become saved, more people will help out, more people will give, and all those sorts of things. We're at the, we say it a lot, and it's just I guess we think things are just so personal. Like we don't understand why things aren't happening because we want them to.
Right.
It's just like, why aren't things happening right now? Or why aren't things happening? If I were in charge, I'd do things this way, or I'd have things done this way. That's how it makes sense. But, we serve a God who, as I mentioned earlier, he works in mysterious ways. We don't understand his plan. We don't understand his timing. We don't understand the purpose of everything that happens to us or around us or through us. But I have to have hope and I have to have faith that, everything that's happening is because he has a bigger and better purpose and plan for me.
Right.
And it is my job to be obedient, to do what he's called me to do, to do what he has led me to do, to whether it's to preach, to teach, to pray, to whatever else it may be. It's my job to keep doing that, keep showing up consistently keep showing up and keep doing what I've been called to do. And then God will provide the increase. As just as we talked about in service, David, he had to do what God led him to do in the first place. As a shepherd, he always made sure the sheep were taken care of before he, pursued his calling as a king. He had to make sure his brothers had the food and the supplies they needed before he took on Goliath.
Right.
He still took care of what God gave him, authority over in the first place before God gave him the full authority over the kingdom. And, and it's just, I always relate to David, I guess, so much. There's so much, I don't even say that I relate to as much as I look up to, because, David was, he was after God's own heart. There were so many things he he had the best heart position in so many places, but he still screwed up every once in a while.
Absolutely.
He still made mistakes. But, God still blessed him because he was quick to ask for forgiveness, and it's just, I want to be more like that. I want to be more satisfied, more content in the present, in the moment, rather than always constantly being worried about what's next or what's coming next, and just be grateful when it gets here.
Right.
When the moment gets here, I can be grateful.
Yeah.
I can have faith that it'll come, but I need to be grateful for where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we all could get a little bit better at. I know I feel like I say that phrase a lot, but I say that because I know I need to get better at that. I know I need to work on that. I know I need to be more content. I pray a lot. I pray a lot for myself to be more content, to be more at peace with the way things are, and to stop worrying so much about what's to come or what may happen or what could happen or what could have been. I think we oftentimes get so frustrated, as we mentioned a little bit already today. About worried about what could have been. If I just had this mindset I have now 15 years ago, 10
where
years
would
ago,
we be?
5 years ago, where would we be? It doesn't really matter because we can't change it.
Right.
We can't go back and change it, but what we can do is start being obedient today.
Yes.
We can start being obedient today. We can start doing what we're supposed to do today so that, in 5, 10, 15 years, we don't look back with more regret.
Yeah.
We have to just trust that we're doing what we've been called to do, and we have to have faith that God will provide the increase, God will provide the blessing, and God will provide the growth.
Yep.
As long as we're faithful and as long as we are obedient.
Yep.
And so that's what I guess what I want to leave everybody with today is just to learn, work with me, because I'm going to be working on this too. Work on being more content, being more gracious, and with, or I guess for what you already have, for what you see around you, and stop being so worried about, so and so's not giving, so and so hasn't been in 3 weeks, so and so's not doing this, so and so's not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
We're never going to grow if we don't do this or if we don't do that. It's all about using wisdom, but trusting God with the process.
There you go.
And I think that's something that I need to get better at, and I do hope everybody else out there listening and watching gets better at as well.
Absolutely. So, to take anything away, just from what Nick said today, I mean, and even myself, just to drive home the point, man, the heart position makes the difference. The heart position makes the difference. We're not the ultimate judge. God is. And whether we think people's walk and people's relationship with Jesus sucks or not, that's not up to us. That's still up to Him. He knows their hearts, and He knows their position, and He knows, the innermost workings of their life. And so, today, we said, we send thousands of dollars to organizations and to people all over the world for outreach, and it's like we don't even reach out to the people in our rows. Mm-hmm. And so, if you listen to this all the way through, fantastic. And we hope that something is said and done inside of whether it's church or this podcast that will cause you to question, not other people, but to look at yourself, to just look in the mirror and be like, what do I need to get better at? What do I personally need to get better at? And if you can come up with one thing, you know what that means at that point? That you need to lay the stone down. If you can come up with one thing that you need to get better at, I could say this: I need to read the Bible more. And you're like, man, you say that? What? Yeah. And so then I need to put the stone down. And if you could come up with one thing, man, put the stone down. Work on you. And one more time. If you operate at God's pace, it will produce patience in your life. And the biggest thing I feel like we need today is patience with people more than anything. So we love you tremendously. Thank you so much, man, for tuning in. And again, continue to hit that download button. Tell a friend or two. And until we see you again in this place, we love you and be blessed.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
As always, this is PKR, and for my sidekick Nick, we say thank you very much for hitting that download button on People Suck, Love Them Anyways. Be sure to tell a friend, tell a family member to hit that download button as well. And as always, we say thank you. Be blessed.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Hustle hard, hustle every single